we're here today to recognize something that matters, our history, our culture, where we're coming from, and also where we intend to go. We are recognizing the history and the relevance of the Arochukwu Kingdom. And who better to tell the story of the Arochukwu Kingdom than its king? And we're very honored as a foundation to host the King of Arochukwu, His Royal Highness Eberechukwu Oji, Eze Aro. We're going to be having conversations, open conversations, on why Arochukwu matters to us as Igbo, but not just as Igbo, as Nigerians and as Africans and as black people, so to say. We're going to discover things that I promise that we've never known about our own history as Nigerians and as Africans. You know, we prepared just a little video that we can watch and learn a little bit of context about Arochukwu. There's also a little file that we'll be collecting your numbers and we'll share so you can read up a little deeper about Arochukwu, the kingdom, the history, the villages, and a bit more intelligence about it, you know. But today we just want to have conversations about where we're from, how we're all connected through this history of this great kingdom, Arochukwu, and where we're going as a people as well. So on behalf of 1952 Africa, Eze Aro. No. Welcome, sir. So, video.
So where did you discover the video? Where did you found it online?
The present-day Arochukwu Kingdom in Arochukwu local government area of Abia State was birthed out of an alliance initiated by Agbu Inobia, a blacksmith and leader of the Eze Aro clan in the mid-16th century, whose settlement at Amanagu was resisted by the Ibibio-led regional monarch Ogonita. To stave off the aggression of the Ibibio, Mazi Inobia sought the help of Nnachi, a native priest of Afikpo origin, and an alliance with the merchant princes of the Akbar dynasty in Eastern Cross River, who were considered skilled and armed warriors at the time. The trio of the leader of the Eze Aro clan, Nnachi, and Akbar princes Osim and Akuma Nubi will join forces with Akakoko Okun, the son of the Ibibio ruler, whose mother is from the Eze Aro clan, to defeat his father, Ogonita, in the Ibibio Aro Wars, leading to the end of the Ibibio reign and the establishment of the Arochukwu Confederacy with militarized states like Ohafia, Abam, Abreba, Afikpo, and Ekwan. The Akbar prince, Akuma Nubi, became the first Eze Aro to lead the Confederate state and regional superpower. After his death, Nnachi's descendant, Okenachi, took over the reins of the thriving kingdom and remained the royal household to this day. While the Eze Aro clan and descendants of Akbar princes, now Ibomisi clan, remain the other two founding houses of the Arochukwu Kingdom. The Confederate state of Arochukwu went on to dominate trade in the pre-colonial Southern Protectorate with its newfound status, as well as the influence of the superstitious powers of Ubi Mubabi, popularly known as the Arochukwu Long Juju. This cultural hegemony, as well as the thriving slave trade that became the economic mainstay of the Arochukwu Kingdom, will be broken in the 1901-1902 Anglo-Aro Wars, when the gallant fighters of Arochukwu Confederate State gave in to the superior powers of the British troops after months of fierce battle. A distinct component of the ancient Arochukwu Kingdom that remained formidable to this day, it is a popular monarchy in the Igbo political context, where a decentralized leaderless structure is preferred to a central structure wielding authority over component units or states. Popular among the monarchs of this ancient kingdom is Mazi Kanu Oji, who was crowned Eze Aro in 1914 and reigned for 73 years. He is reported to be one of the longest-serving monarchs on the African continent, with a record of unparalleled achievements that earned him honors such as the Queen Elizabeth II Coronation Medal and Commander of the British Empire OBE in 1956. Today's Arochukwu Kingdom is made up of 19 city-states known as Ogos, with their rulers, Ndi Eze Ogo, answerable to the Eze Aro, while the Eze Aro, who is usually from Okenachi Royal House, and the Eze of the other two kindreds of Eze Aro and Igbo make up the Eze Aro in council. The identity of Aros worldwide, as the people of Arochukwu are fondly called, is conveyed in their unique insignia, the Omu Aro, which has a knotted Omu leaf at the center, with a hand giving it and the other receiving. On the borders of the Omu are wavy lines that have a perched eagle with spread wings on top of the lines and a crown each on the left and right sides, while diagonally crossed are a sword and a gun with the arrow motto, Akwa Buiche, which means wisdom is necessary in any adventure in life, at the bottom of the emblem. The rich and unrivaled culture and tradition of the Aros are showcased annually in several festivals like the Ike Aro Festival, held every September to mark the end of the farming season, the arrival of harvest, and the beginning of a new season. Arochukwu is dotted with several sites that hold cultural importance, such as the Arochukwu Caves, housing the partly destroyed Arochukwu Long Juju, also known as Ibimubami Shrine, which was instrumental in the ancient slave trade, with some relics from the trade on display in the House Museum of Eze Aro Oji in Ujari village. The Presbyterian Missionary Compound, which had a cottage hospital, school and church, was an operational base of Mary Slessor and her team in their work to stop the superstitious killing of twins in the primitive Southern Protectorate, putting Arochukwu as one of our spheres of influence on the Scottish £10 sterling. The expansive Arochukwu Kingdom is one to reckon with in all spheres of development in Nigeria, from the economic hegemony of the 16th and 17th centuries to the pre-colonial Nigerian struggle and the modern-day independent Nigeria. With our illustrious sons and daughters contributing innovatively to the progress and prosperity of the country, amongst whom are the late Dr. Alvani Koku, a leading Nigerian educationist, adorning the 10 Naira note and the founder of Agri Memorial Secondary School in 1931. Business executive Mazi Samu Hamua, renowned Nigerian footballer Kanu Wampo, and Nollywood actor Alex Ekubo, just to mention a few. The ancient and revered kingdom, which has been without a crowned Eze Aro since the demise of Eze Mazi Vincent Ubonaya Okoro in 2020, is ready to have one of our finest sons, a seasoned professional with over 25 years deep technical and business management experience in the oil and gas industry, Prince Engineer Eberechukwu Oji, ascend to the throne of his ancestors come December 26, 2023, when he will be crowned the chief custodian of the cultures and tradition of the Arochukwu Kingdom worldwide. Inside the Niger Delta.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm going to invite a good friend of mine, to just say something very quick in response to this video that we just watched. Further introducing Eze Aro and laying the foundation for the next level of our conversations. So I want to recognize Honorable Chibuzo Okafo.
None. Ndewonu.
Leo.
Ndewonu.
Leo.
Igbo kwenu.
Yeah.
Igbo kwenu. Igbo kwenu. Eze. Eze Aro. Ibirikwa o.
Ndewonu.
Because all my pleasure. Email introduce. The mic and email her.
Yeah, hold on.
To introduce what we came to do here. And also, Imekwa introduce His Royal Highness, His Eminence Eze Aro, Eze Aro Eze Aro the Ninth of Arochukwu Kingdom. A very special occasion for me because apart from being our king, all my very good friend and elder brother to me. Ejike Omonia, we share the same value and the same passion for our people. I with so much love for our people. Before he was crowned Eze Aro, just to let you know that how God works, Arochukwu said, I am not that, tended towards what we are doing here today. Anywhere we were there, Mana Lagos, Mana Oka, Mana Enugu, it was all about getting high, man. Can you go see our people, the kind of people we are, and also to chart a new course of leadership. We are all in agreement, among the others. Kaira Kugodi can the old generation men, but not to start now to begin to engage our youth, our people, especially in a position of influence, so that we are talking to Indiga. I talk about India also. I'm trying to mix it up so that some of us here are not Igbos can also catch what I'm trying to say. I believe in one category or the other, in the case of reasonable influence or with reasonable audience. So I really engage with our people. When we talk to this kind of people I am assembled today, they can also take the message and be able to spread it around. So in either event, to engage with ourselves, with our people, with young people, because I believe we will get more traction in the back. In the leaders are in the Megon Kehame, in the Bagotem, if you mention all of them, the political class, business class, Imago, our people have much, much confidence in them, much faith in their leadership. So can you be done with India Kanabogoten, Unuma, Indinaba, all of you that are here, I in a place see a lot of confidence and faith that the leadership that will lead Ndi Igbo to the promised land, that will lead Nigeria and Africa to the promised land. Not give you from here. Because you can be from here. In way you can maybe you can more belly one corner like that. It will start from here. Having discussion so that when you're going to responsibility on each and every one of us to begin to position ourselves and begin to think that there are things that we need to do. That is why I'm very grateful to my very good friend and my brother, Ejike, who also shares in this same view and this same spirit. I'm grateful to him for putting this all together and for inviting Eze Aro. When he muted this idea, in fact, it was just like some years ago, like we discussed it years ago. So I'm grateful to you and I'm grateful to this platform. And on that note, I want to speak come welcome more and then one take what Eze Aro the ninth. Ogwa umwanyi ukwu umwanna anyị ukwu na mgbeda Igbo Eze.
Ndị anyị ndewo nọ. Abụrụ m ụmụ arụ nọ n'ebe a. Cho Aro mmamana. Cho ụmụ Igbo mmamana. Cho Nigeria mmamana. Cho Africa mmamana. Ụmụ nwanyị ori ihe bụ na azamaazị. Nke mbụ wụ ikele nwanne anyị nwoke Ejike mere organize program a sị anyị bịa na ọ dịghị izi. Biko unu kụtụrụ ya aka n'oke mmadụ. anụrụ m na o wetara ọjị
Yes.
ka anyị mee omenala ọjị maka na Igbo si na ọjị a na-anụ bekee. So hapụgodi ya. Okay. Maka ndị ga na-ahụ ihe a n'onyonyo ka ha ghọta na anyị nwere omenala. And mgbe ọbụla anyị zukọtara dịka ụmụ Igbo, ọ na-adị mma ka anyị were omenala bido okwu. Nnamdi Onu. Anyị ma agọzi ọjị a. Anyị achọ onye ma omenala ma bịa meziere anyị dị ọjị ka ụmụ anyị na-amụta omenala anyị. Maazị Jideofor, ị batara mgbe anyị na-ekwu ihe bara uru. Biko bịa ka ị meziere anyị ọjị a ka ndị nọ ebe a mara agazi emezi ọjị. Biko nọkọtara ya aka. Nna m. Enwe ndị Igbo, nwee ndị na-awụkwa ndị Igbo, ma ndị na-ele ihe agaghị awụ ndị Igbo. Anyị sị ka anyị pụtụ n'Igbo, anyị were English kọwatụ. Ọ naghị anụ English. Ka eme kwuo n'Igbo nna.
Onye eze n'ọjị na ala Igbo eweta ọjị aga o wetara yazi ndị ọ na-achị. Anyị nabata ya, anyị nabata ọjị anyị n'ihi na ọjị bụ ọjị ịdị n'otu, ọjị ịhụnanya, ọjị ikwu eziokwu, ọjị nabata onye bịara na obiti ya agaghị emepe agwụ ama. Emechaa ya, anyị ga-enyechi eze anyị nyachi ya gọziere anyị ọjị. Ọ gọzi gbaa ọjị, anyị na-enwetakwa obodo ịhazie, n'ihi na enwere ọtụtụ dị iche iche eji ahazi ọjị. Nke ọhụ ma bụ ma ọ bụrụ na Eze Aro gọzikwa ọjị, ya nyedekwa m obodo, nye m ya na-akpọ gawa n'ihu ike ọjị a. Ndewo.
Ka anyị kpee ekpere. Papa anyị bi n'eluigwe, Chineke, lekwa ọjị oru gị nwoke Ejike wetara, anyị ji ebido mmemme anyị taa. A na-eche ọjị a n'ivu gị, na-ekwu na mgbe anyị ma atọ ọjị a ka ọ bụrụ ọjị ngọzi, ọjị ọganivu, ọjị ụzọ mmepe, ọjị ahụike na ọjị ndụ. Ka anyị na-atọ ọjị a ka ọ bụrụ ọjị mmekọta nwanne na nwanne. Anyị na-ekwu na ihe emebila hụla ndị Igbo ebe ọ dị njọ ukwuu. Za n'abalị taa, ma ihe okwu ọnụ anyị ma ekwu ma ihe ndị anyị ma eme, ka ọ bụrụkwa ihe a ma eji chịkọta ụmụ Igbo ọdọ, ka ọganihu bịara anyị, ka ihe ndị mmebi n'ahụrụ anyị ka ebido ugbu a meziwe ya. Ihe ndị a niile ka anyị na-arịọ gị n'aha Jizọs Kraịst bụ onye nwe anyị. Were gaa n'ihu nna m.
Igbo mma mmanụ, onye eze gọziele ọjị. N'ala Igbo, anyị ma ahazi ọjị a agụ kwesịrị. And
Buhari Oji zi onye nwe ụlọ.
Biko, o nwere onye Anambra nọ n'ebe a? Onye Anambra? Aka m na-agị nọ n'ọcha. Onye Enugu steeti nọ na ya. Aka m na-agị nọ ya. O nwere onye Ebonyi steeti nọ with us. Onye Ebonyi. Aka ndị Ebonyi nọ ya. Imo State. Aka gị nọ n'ọjị ya. Abia.
Ozuela.
Ozuela.
Ndị ọzọ ndị Nigeria.
Then ndị na nkewo. Anyị ama aba ekwu na
Zighaji.
Mgbe Adịọma, onye ọrụ na-asịkwa mgbe ọrụ.
No, I'm not talking about
Okay.
He got Papa Adịọma, irrespective of Adoga State.
Adịọma, onwe ndị ka nọ ebe a? Okay, aka ya nọ gị na ya. Adịọma, obi ọdịla gị mma. Biko, ndị inyom anyị anaghị ezi ha ọjị kama nke ụmụ ata na ọdịgwu anyị. So, Eze.
Ka mmadụ nyere ya aka. Emi bịa nyere ya aka wa ọjị. Onye nwe mmiri a na-akwọta aka iji awa ọjị omenala. Mbụrụ nke m. Ya bụrụ nke m tii n'akpa. O jide. Ibula n'ụzọ zie ezi. Ngwa bụrụ tii n'akpa. Tii ya n'akpa. So what we will do is when they bring the water, he can wash his hand. Okay, yeah, and then he can. Okay, that makes sense. Just to chatuaka. It's okay. It's okay. Just pieces it out. Just break it. Nam, ima kuziri agọ maza Buhari adị ọjị. Bịa were ọjị. No, sir. Enugu. Natara Ebonyi. Ka oke ha ghara ifu.
Ịma anụmanụ onye bịa were ọjị. Ya ewerecha, ọ ga-azụ ọfọ soro ibe ya ree.
Anakwere gị.
Thank you very much. Ọnwụ na agọrọ ọfọ.
Ekpere bụ ọfọ ekpere.
I think you took for Neoma.
He took for Delta.
Delta.
Ozuola. Ozuola.
Yes.
Yoruba.
Yoruba my place. The son of the soil.
I think it's okay. Then they can clip it and then Ebuaria the Anga can them also no. And also Jananga Buaria can them at the time.
I mean this one. You can stay
See, what we're doing is very important because this is how we start meetings in Igbo land. It's a ritual.
It's a ritual, yes.
That sets the stage for whatever we want to do. I should rush it by any time, gloss over it, take our time.
Important.
Sure. The challenge is that we are not even planting the original. We are buying the original from other parts of Nigeria. It's something we have to correct.
I know. No one is planting.
We should be planting it. And as Oji up to Benin Republic, Eritrea and Algeria.
This is that's my wife.
Sorry?
That's my wife.
Hello, it's a pleasure. Thank you. You're welcome.
So I want to quickly recognize some of our co-hosts.
Only when we are done all that, we can get into
Yes. Okay. Thank you everyone for observing our traditions. I want to welcome very quickly partners that we have. People that have contributed to the idea and making it possible for us to actually come together and have this evening and this conversation. I want to recognize 234 Finance, a social enterprise working very hard, to help and support and mentor young people in business, to make it possible for them to turn their ideas, their small ideas, into big businesses, and we're represented here by its CEO, my sister, someone I respect very much. I don't play with her at all. Eze Aro. Can you please come and just say something very, very quick to our people?
So I'll have to speak English so I don't butcher.
No, just go ahead. Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
Okay. So this was very impromptu, as most of you would realize, because we sent the invites out I think yesterday, and this whole thing started as an idea to basically, charity begins at home, right? And we've been on this journey to empower entrepreneurs, and we said, why don't we bring it back to the Southeast right now more than ever? And it's something that we're doing. We're running a boot camp. So I'll introduce 234 Finance. So it's a social enterprise that basically supports entrepreneurs through content, community, capacity building, and just empowering Africans to be able to be self-sufficient. So we're currently running a boot camp in collaboration with Voice of the East, represented here as well, and we're targeting businesses in the southeastern region to basically encourage migration and encourage the regional development of the southeast. So Ejike and I have had so many conversations about our people being empowered. And this just, started as an idea, and we're here to, to talk about history, because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you're coming from. So that's the essence of this, to really take it back to the basics and, understand our heritage, understand our culture, where we're coming from, and it will guide us, towards where we're going. And now more than ever, we need to be united. That's also something that we're really pushing as well, and we're hoping that this conversation would open up more conversations conversations and more action, for the regional empowerment of our people. Thank you so much, Ejike, for the platform. Thank you, everyone.
234 Finance. I want to also recognize very quickly, a brand that many of us have come to know. Anyone that follows social media, follows Instagram and Facebook and all of the likes, you would have heard about this brand. And interestingly, it's run by a lady that is seated here with us right now. It's called The Voice of the East. We've the name is very significant. It's very significant because there are many voices in life that you can listen to, but no one can tell your story better than yourself. And for me, very directly, that's what this brand represents. Just like its name, The Voice of the East. And it's very fitting that they are here in this first edition of these conversations we're having to observe and to echo the words that we speak here. So I want to recognize the CEO of Voice of the East. She's here with us. Can you just come and
I'm so glad I haven't been put on the spot today. I'm here in Lagos for work, and I've been put on the spot a few times since I got here. So I prepared a speech, a little one, so bear with me, please. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is lovely to be here in the midst of exceptional men and women like yourselves of Igbo descent. When I told Zini, the founder of 234 Finance, about my business trip to Lagos, she immediately read out the list of various people she thought I should connect with. One of them was Ejike. In fact, she was certain that in true Ejike fashion, he would be open to hosting myself and my team in this office. That's my team right there. The boys, the guys. I hear he's an amazing host, and I can attest to that by being here today, so thank you so much. During my conversation with Zini about my trip to Lagos, she added Ejike to a three-way conversation. And just as she mentioned, he indeed offered to host Eastside Ventures in his office. In that same conversation, which took place about 2 days ago, I shared an idea that Zini and I had discussed during her visit to Enugu a few weeks ago. The creation of the Southeast CEO and Founders Forum. This forum would bring together exceptional women and men of Igbo descent who are making significant impacts in their various fields. The goal is to form an ecosystem where we can network, connect, and discuss the way forward for the Southeast region of Nigeria. Imagine the brilliant minds behind these amazing companies coming together to share ideas and advancing the Southeast region, turning it into a region we can be proud of, and one that the future generations can be proud of. I believe that we all share this vision and dream of restructuring and renewing the Southeast. This leads me to why Eastside Ventures was born. Our overarching mission is to advance Indigo and Alibo to become the most sought-after region for investments and opportunities in the Southeast, thereby fostering economic growth and prosperity for Alibo and its people. We are calling on Igbos to invest in the East. And right now we are investing in various sectors that we believe will thrive here in the East. From tech to real estate, media to agriculture, arts, and more. Our flagship subsidiary, Voice of the East, is currently the most prominent company or media company in the Southeast. And I beat my chest to that. With a reach of over 20 million people per month, both at home and in the diaspora, we are truly the voice of the East. During my announcement as Group CEO of Eastside Ventures about a month ago, I made it clear that my vision is to ensure that the world sees the beauty and opportunities that awaits them in the Southeast. We are open to collaborations and partnerships that align with our mission of advancing the Southeast region and ensuring that Igbo will indeed be great again. This isn't a far-fetched dream. Through ESV, Eastside Ventures, we are making this dream a reality, and I hope that you all will join us in making our dream thrive and our region thrive as well. So thank you, Ejike, for this warm welcome and for hosting this gathering. I am honored to be here, and I believe and hope that this will be the start of something great. The future of Igbo is in our hands, and the future of Igbo is here right now. Thank you so much.
So, thank you to our co-hosts, 234 Finance and Voice of the East. We're going to get into it. Before everyone was seated here, a few of us were upstairs, and in true Eze Aro fashion, we got into class, and we had to beg him to stop so that we could restart again, fully convene with everyone here. But just to create some context, we were all told that Igbo people did not have a king growing up. We were all told that we were made up of different little villages and towns spread across vast lands, some not even speaking the same language or understanding each other's dialects. We were told that the Igbos were the most difficult to manage because they were individualistic and had their own individual agendas. The reason why we're here today is because we want to interrogate a different perspective of who we are. We want to go deeper and further back into our histories to find out when we were actually united. And if it was true that we were actually united, and somehow this history has been forgotten or just somehow missing from our books. From a bit of research that we have done at 1952 Africa, we have discovered that truly there was a time when Igbos were united, and there was a time when we fought wars under a single banner, and there was a time when certain armies fought representing all of our other villages. Now, at the time that we find ourselves where disunity is very, very serious, across Igbo land, we're looking for what can unite us. It is our belief and our hope that going far back into our history and bringing up the history of Arochukwu and what has happened, and now with a young king who has his mind set on uniting the Igbo land, we feel that this is the time to have the conversations around truly uniting ourselves and moving forward together. That is the context of our conversations today. And on that note, I'd like to welcome His Royal Highness Eze Aro. Eze Aro, I want to start by again thanking you for honoring the invitation. And I first want to ask a very simple question. In your own understanding and knowledge, what is the single thing that unites all Igbos?
So Ejike, kam kelee gị na ajụjụ ọma ị jụrụ. Ejikwa m ohere a na-ekele lọlọ gị batara mgbe anyị bidoro ikwu. Biko na kelee
my wife.
So m ga-akọwa ya n'okwu Igbo, then were English kọwata ya ka o dote ndị ọbụla anya. Ihe jikọrọ ndị Igbo ọnụ wụ onye anyị wụ. Akpọ oge onye Igbo, ndị a ihe ọ pụtara nye gị dịka mmadụ na mkpọrọ gị onye Igbo. n'ala Igbo anyị na-asị nwa afọ Igbo, nwa Igbo rijuru afọ, nwa amụziri amụzi, nwa amụrụrụ ụlọ. Ihe jikọrọ ụmụ Igbo bụ onye ha wụ. Ụmụ Igbo wụ ụmụ Chukwu. Nọ na-akọwa mgbe anyị bidoro akụkọ a n'elu na mgbe ndị ọcha bịara, ha hụrụ na ndị Igbo ma Chineke. Maka ndị Igbo ma Chineke, o mere ozi ha wetara enwe ike doo anyị anya maka anyị ma Chineke. Maka na anyị ma Chineke, anyị wụ ụmụ Chineke, anyị wụ ụmụ Chukwu. Maka anyị wụ ụmụ Chukwu wụrụ ụmụ Chineke, ihe eji mara anyị na onye anyị bụ doro anyị anya dịka ndị Igbo, na chi nke anyị na-efe bụ Chineke kere eluigwe n'ụwa, Chukwu okike abịa. Maka Chukwu kere eluigwe n'ụwa, ndị Igbo mara ndị ha bụ ejighị ụjọ biri. Igbo ejighị ụjọ biri. Ụkwụ anyị ruru ala, anya anyị ruru ala, obi anyị ruru ala. Anyị ma ala, mara elu, mara ihe nọ n'etiti ya ma n'ala ma n'elu. Maka na anyị maara onwe anyị, marụzie onwe anyị, ụwa niile ruo na njedebe ya wụ Chineke anyị na-efe kere ya. Ụmụ Igbo na-eji ma nghọta ma okwukwe gaa n'ụwa niile na-eme mma. So ịjụ ajụjụ ahụ, kedu ihe jikọrọ ndị Igbo ọnụ? Ihe jikọrọ ndị Igbo ọnụ wụ ịmata onwe. Maka na onye na-ama onwe ya furu efu. Onye na-ama onwe ya furu efu. Ana ọ ga-adị mma na mmekọta anyị taa na onwe ihe anyị ga-ekwu ga-enye mmadụ dum ma aṅụrị ma obi isi ike, wụ na mmadụ dum na-anụ ihe anyị na-ekwu taa ghọtara na ihe ahụ ihe jikọrọ ndị Igbo ọnụ. For the benefit of those who don't understand Igbo language, I would explain what I'm saying. The question is, what unites Igbo people? And the answer to that question is that what unites Igbo people is their sense of identity. And that sense of identity, very unique to Igbo people, is that we know who we are. We are traditionally sons and daughters of God. Umuchukwu. Before Christianity came, we had that sense of identity. That Igbo people traditionally understood that the God they worship is the one who created heaven and earth. And we have understanding of everything that is in between. So if you look at our folklore, if you look at our idioms, if you look at our tradition, if you look at the small ritual we performed with kola nut, it speaks to that understanding of self. Because once your understanding of self is restored, and Igbo people understand that the God we serve is the God who created heaven and earth, and the ends thereof, traditionally as Igbo people, that gave us confidence to go anywhere in the world. And I think it's important to explain, particularly to young people who are listening to this story, that traditionally Igbo people are born free. We are born free. And we are not a slave to anybody. That's our sense of identity. And when people don't understand it, they confuse it for so many things. And that's why we want to correct that impression that traditionally Igbo people are born free. When we have a kid, we bring the kid and we present the kid to the God who created heaven and earth, and we dedicate that child to that God. And we leave that child to God. And that's why you see Igbo people, they go everywhere in the world and they do well. Because it's inside of them that they are born free. But not a slave to any man. Never been and never will be. And because that is our sense of identity, it may rub some people off wrongly. But as Igbo people, that is actually who we are. Free-born sons and daughters of the God who created heaven and earth. And so because that is who we are, that is what unites us. And when we ourselves have limited understanding of that identity, we end up into some kind of conflict, challenge, competition, and all those things. But we have to correct that. That sense of identity is actually what unites us. It's not what divides us or separates us, all of that. And I'm hopeful that in the conversation today, we will, to everybody who is listening, restore in some measure, particularly to Igbo young people, that sense of identity. Nwa afọ Igbo, nwa afọ rijuru afọ Igbo. Ana-azụ ya n'ahịa. Nwa otu esi ele ya, onye ahụ ahịa ọma na-ere onwe ya. Na nwa Igbo ọbụla, ebe ọbụla ị hụrụ nwa Igbo, na onye ahụ nwa Igbo, nwa Chineke. And ọ bụrụ na nkụziere ụmụ anyị na ha ụmụ Chineke, is a nation of princes and princesses. Igbos, you are born a royalty. Ụmụ Igbo dum. Maka na ha ụmụ Chukwu, ebe ọbụla ha gara, ma akara aka ha, ma ebube ha, ma ụdị ha, n'ezi na ha ụmụ Chineke. Princes and princesses made in the image of God, traditionally given that understanding, and it's powerful.
Very powerful.
And this is not religion. And I really want to be very clear about it. This is not religion. I'm a Christian man. Yeah? This is not religion. But it is spiritual. That you understand who you are. And you carry that sense of identity wherever you go. And it's really important that Igbo people, young people, are taught what we have been taught traditionally, that you are born as an Igbo person free. You are born as an Igbo person a child of God. You are born as an Igbo person princes and princesses everywhere. So it's a nation of royalty. And once you have that identity, which is what unites us, restored, then every effort and attempt of people to use it as a means of dividing us comes to an end. And I hope that starting from tonight, that will be what we will achieve.
Thank you, Eze Aro. Now going back a little into a more recent history of Igbo. Now we're all aware that there's a fundamental difference in mindset from the pre-Igbo, Onigbo, and from pre-war rather, and post-war. Something happened, and it's not strange, you know. The Biafran War, the Civil War, you know, such a significant event capable of changing the destinies or the trajectory of any civilization. So when we look at recorded history of what happened during that time, what impact do you think that has had on our concept of identity before this terrible event and after? And how do you think, if possible, we can retrace our steps back to the pre-mindset of self-identity and worth?
Yeah. Ekele m gị ebe ọ dị ukwuu na ajụjụ ahụ ị jụrụ, maka na oke ihe mere ndị Igbo n'ọgụ alụrụ 1967 to 1970. Ndị gụrụ ihe gụrụ ọtụtụ ụmụ ndị okorobịa na ụmụ agbọghọbịa na ndị eji mara mmadụ n'ala Igbo nwụrụ n'agha. And onwe mgbe ọtụtụ mmadụ nwụrụ n'oge mgbe ntakịrị, ọtụtụ ihe eji mara ndị nọ na ndụ ndị ahụ gabigara agabiga ga-awe ihe a na-achọ achọ. Ndị fọrọ ndụ mgbe agha biri, ihe mbụ nọ ha n'uche wụ ka otu mmadụ ga-esi dị ndụ, ka otu mmadụ ga-esi rie nri. Mgbe ahụ mgbe a na-ekwu kedu onye mbụ kedu onye mawụ, ihe onye nwere mmadụ ga-eme ka o nwee ike ịdị ndụ wee ihe Igbo bidoro tinyewe aka. Kama ile anya site na mgbe agha biri rute ugbu a, ị ga-ahụ na ndị anyị agbalịala ọgbasi bi n'elu Chineke anyị na-efe ehichala anyị anya mmiri. Akara aka ha anyị na-ekwu eji mara anyị ndị Igbo, ụwa niile ahụla ya. Na-agbanyeghị ihe funahụrụ anyị n'agha, ị ga-ahụ na Chineke ezila ihe o ji wuru Chineke na ndụ ụmụ Igbo. Ebe ọ bụ na Chineke merela anyị ihe ọma dị otu a, anyị nwawu ụmụ Igbo ga-ejizi ire anyị gụọ eze anyị ọgụ, si onwe anyị na mgbe ịzọ ndụ eruola na njedebe. Anyị ga-ebidozi ugbu a kwuo okwu ịpụta mmadụ dịka ụmụ Igbo, dịka ndị Igbo. In a quick summary of what I'm saying in Igbo is that a very terrible thing happened to Igbo people during the war. And when you have from a group of people the loss of so many lives within a short period of time, many things that is carried through by those people who were lost during the war is a loss to the generality of Igbo people. I hope you're following me. So the pre-war Igbo man was identifying and knew himself as has been taught to us traditionally. So they were proud people and they were doing well. The post-war Igbo man had to go into survival mode. Yeah? And I don't want to whip up sentiments of what happened to us post-war and all of that. All Igbo people being made to start from the scratch and all of that. But I think the story to tell is that 50 years on, the God that the Igbo people serve have demonstrated in their lives why he is their God. And the losses of that war have almost all been recovered. And so where we are now, and which is why this conversation is key, is that we need to bring that survival mentality to an end. Yes. It has served us enough. And we need to start having a conversation of self-recovery and self-discovery. And that's why these historical stories we are telling tonight, many of you are going to tell tonight, is really, really key. And it's very, very important. Because that self-recovery, self-discovery, and all of that is what is going to define who we are going forward. So I really want to underscore that point, that there is a marked difference between the pre-war Igbo nation and the post-war Igbo nation for a good reason. And however, as they say, what brought you here is not what is going to take you there.
Absolutely.
So the survival mentality has served us well enough, but the time has come for us to draw a line on that mentality and then begin to recover the mentality of who we truly are. And I hope that this conversation tonight will help us to...
I want to crave your indulgence, Eze Aro. Just very quick, you touched on something that's very important. You said the God that we serve has turned around. It's a miracle. It's a miracle, to be honest. That's really what it is. In 50 years, the economic transformation is a miracle. I would love for us to just give a round of applause for our parents, our uncles, our big brothers, who performed a miracle, within our history, within our lifetimes. But at this point, I think if we could go back in time, truly, from your, I'm sure you have access to a huge amount of history, within your royal archives that date back before Nigeria. If you can share with us, some insights into this pre-war Onyibo, like what did they do differently from this survival mode that we all have grown up looking? What did they do? What was a day like? What did a wealthy man look like? What did he sound like? What were his dreams and his aspirations? How far did he aspire to go?
Yeah. So I'll use a lot of anecdotes from Arochukwu to tell the story. But ile anya na onye Igbo otu ndụ ndị Igbo dị. Nke mbụ ọ bụrụ na nwoke amụrụ ya na-eto, ọ pụọ mmadụ aga otu esi ekwu n'ala Igbo, onye apụọla mmadụ. Ịpụ mmadụ ahụ bụ na dimkpa tota ole anya na ihe ọ na-eme n'ụlọ nna ya na o mejuola. Ọ pụọ gaa mba, gaa n'ezi, mee ihe o kwesịrị ime, were ọnọdụ, kpọọ ya obi ya. Ọ wụrụ mgbe owe mepebe anya, ọ wụrụ ọgụgụ ihe ọbụla ọ rụrụ ya alụ, were obi ahụ zara aha ya alaghachita n'ụlọ nna ya, bịa kọwaa na-elekwa ebe ọ gara, na-elekwa ihe o mere, asị na o turula ugo, dimkpa turula ugo lọta. Ụmụnna ya ma nna ya ezie ndị na ka aga mara ebe nwa manụ ma ihe ọ na-eme. Mgbe ụfọdụ ịgazi dị aga ahụ na ihe ọ na-eme wụ kazi ihe nkazi nna ya, sị a na-akpọ nwe ihe ndị Igbo na bụ omeka nna, o mekarịa nna. Nna ya agọzie ya, ya wụzie na ọ ga na-abịa n'ahụ nna ya na-alaghachi ebe obi. Ụdịrị echiche ahụ na mgbe gboo soro ndị Igbo tupu agha ebido. Maka mgbe ndị ọcha bịara, ndị mba Naịjirịa, ndị mba ọzọ bidoro hụ ndị ọcha gawa akwụkwọ, ma mgbe ndị Igbo tetara hụ na ịga akwụkwọ wee ihe dị mkpa. Ile anya na ohere mgbe nta, mgbe ndị Igbo nabatara ọgụmakwụkwọ, ha gụkarịa akwụkwọ karịa mmadụ dum. Maka ndị Igbo ndị gbalụ itinye ihe uchu na-adị mma. So onye Igbo tupu agha abịa wee onye lee onwe ya anya, onwe ihe ndị diọkpa ndị ọzọ na-eme, ya sị na ya onwe ga-emenwu kara ọ na-agba mbọ echiche ahụ wụ mmadụ nwere obi nke ya, mmadụ nwere onwe ya nọkwa ha n'ime. So ihe niile ha na-achọ ịhụ wụ na ha mere onwe ha ka ọ dịkwa otu ahụ ọ dị mbụ, na esi n'ụlọ nna gị pụọ ga tụrụ ugo lọta. So mgbe ha gawara na obodo ndị na-eji a na-anụ aha ha, mgbe ahụ ọ ha gaa n'obodo ha mee ihe mekọta ihe, ha lọta n'ụlọ bịa rụọ ụlọ. Ihe a ka eji mara ndị Igbo tupu agha ebido, maka na ala Igbo ma inwe obi inwebeghị aha, anyị chọwa gị anya ma ebe anyị ga-achọrọ gị gaa. Ihe ahụ ihe nọ ndị Igbo n'ime. So just for the interest of those who don't understand Igbo very well, the point I'm making is that the aspirations of the Igbo man before the war was driven by the traditional aspiration of the Igbo man, the way we were raised, which is that when a young boy grows up in his father's house, a time comes when the father releases him to the world. And when he's released into the world, he goes and, pursues his aspirations, whatever he is, and when he achieves fame in a foreign land and establishes himself, then he will come back to his father and explain to his father, I have gone across 7 oceans, 7 seas, or whatever, and I have accomplished so much, and I have come to show you what I have become. Then his father will send people to go with him, to go and see what he has accomplished. So that's the traditional Igbo man. And that's how many of Igbo villages and towns were established, by this culture of going out, and establishing yourself and achieving fame. So the pre-war Igbo man had that same mentality, which is that you leave your hometown and then you go either to acquire education, you go and fight the battles of life. And when you have become somebody, you will come back to the village where you are recognized and do something to connect success outside with success at home. Because in Igbo land, until you have your own house, you don't have address. We don't address you by how you dress. We address you by what you're able to do on ground. So if you look at our traditional ruler, you will see that we are not over-decorated. Because that's not what we are trying to, we're not trying to impress you by, we will recognize you by what you have accomplished. So it was a very meritocratic society. That the young people were, working very hard so that they can come home to show what they have become. And so after the war, when everything was destroyed, that sense of, going home to do something, started coming back. But of course, the resources weren't there, and the people had to build. But when resources began to come, people started coming home to come and just establish themselves. And this is my message to young Igbo people, because now I hear young people saying, why do I need a house in the village? And my answer to that question is that you have no identity until you have a house in the village. Because when we are looking for you, it is that house that we will go and look for. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. That's the house that we'll go and look for. This is unique to us. No biggie kainchi marage. Ancho ganya mareba na choge aga. Erudasi kedo Ejike okay eba bo Ejike. Also kwa ge ro mansion niile no na Lagos. Anya akoro ya aka. Anyị ga-ajụ gị kedu nke rụrụ na amama ihe m na-ekwu doro anya. And this is really important. And this is really important because it is coming from our culture that a young man goes out performs exploit, becomes somebody, achieves a lot. And you have to come back to your father to show him what you have become. So that is the identity of the Igbo man and what drove the identity of the man. People didn't understand it. Why are these Igbo people always going home? What are they going home to do? That is what we are going home to do. You know, I'm one na Igbo. Anyị were alụ nwa ahụ lie n'ala. Ihe nkwa eli alụ nwa ahụ n'ala ka m baghara iri anyị ụmụ. Anyị hụrụ na nsogbu na-adị ugbu a maka na anazi amụ ụmụ na amụ ha n'obodo oyibo, onwe onye ma ebe eliri alụ ha, onwe onye ma ị na-asịzi ụmụazị na eliri n'onwe onye ma ebe eliri alụ ha na ha lọta ala Igbo. Kezi otu ha ga-esi lọta ala Igbo. In essence, what I'm saying is that the traditional Igbo custom required that your identity as a man is tied with your accomplishments that we can see. And that accomplishment we can see is tied to real estate.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tied to native real estate. Mm-hmm. And that is why it's important for young Igbo people who have become somebody, who have accomplished more, to always think about what are they going to do at home for which we're going to, you know, identify them, for which we're going to know them.
Thank you, Eze Aro. Now, just staying for a moment on this subject of accomplishment, of being somebody, which is the purpose of, you know, of raising the child in the first place, for him to become somebody useful. Now, in your own understanding, what has changed in the pre-war definition of somebody, an accomplishment, and the post-war, because something happened, you know, significant event happened. Do you think that there has been a change in our definitions of somebody and something to be celebrated, an accomplishment, you know, through these terrible events? That's one. And then two, if something has changed in our definition, if it has diminished in any way, how do we take it back to a truly, truly proud definition of accomplishment?
Ile anya na ndị Igbo, ihe eji mara ndị Igbo, ihe eji asị na mmadụ apụọla mmadụ n'ala Igbo. Tupu agha abịa, anyị ekwutela okwu na onye ahụ ga-awụ onye nwere obi. Tupu agha abịa, ihe eji pụọ mmadụ n'ala Igbo, eji mara ndị Igbo na ndị gụrụ akwụkwọ gụruo ya ebe eji mara ihe, ndị na-azụ ahịa zụpụta ahịa ahụ ebe eji mara ihe, ndị na-emepụta ihe, ịkwa nka mepụta ya ihe, ndị na-eme ihe eji mara ndị ma ụlọ akwụkwọ ma ụlọ akụ ma ihe dị iche iche, wee ihe n'ala Igbo tupu agha abịa eji akpọ mmadụ na onye apụọla mmadụ. Mgbe agha bịara bịa su mechaa laa, maka na ego adịkwaghị ndị Igbo n'aka iji emepụta ihe otu esi na-eme ya mbụ before asị na mmadụ apụọla mmadụ. Ihe ndị Igbo tinyeziri aka iji akpọ mmadụ wụrụzie ihe gbasara ego. And dịka anyị kwuru na mbụ na ọ maka kedu otu esi adị ndụ, kedu otu esi ka ndị Igbo na-eme ihe niile bazie n'ego. Ilezi anya n'ala Igbo ugbu a, onye kpata ego ewerezie ya ihe a ka eji apụ mmadụ. Ọ dị otu a n'ala Igbo mbụ. N'ala Igbo nwere ike jiri ego mara na ego ahụ kpatara n'ụzọ isi kpata ya ezi ezi, ịpụta n'ama ofu onye aṅụrụma n'ala Igbo, ọ ṅụọ mmanya, ọ ṅụcha mmanya, o lekwasịghị anya, a sị na ma otu esi agwa eziokwu, ekpuru nkata n'ihu gwa ya okwu. Ọ ṅụcha mmanya ahụ ya gwa gị okwu na ego anyị kpatara na ego a ezi ezi, na ikwesị iso ndị bụ mmadụ nọrọ na-ekwu okwu. Ihe awa ala Igbo ya wụrụ nsibiri. So let me explain for those who don't understand Igbo. The question is, what is the difference between the Igbo man's sense of accomplishment before the war and sense of accomplishments today after the war? And the answer to that question is that the Igbo man, carrying over from our ancestry, just before the war, for you to become an accomplished Igbo man is either that you have achieved something through education, or you have achieved something through trade, business and trade, or that you have achieved something in your political career. We have our politically illustrious son. Or you have achieved something in establishing institutions in Igbo land, because traditionally we have always been self-help people. So you start a school and those kind of things. Or you have accomplished something by starting industry. So if you look at the pre-war Igbo land we had, Igbo people made up their mind at some point in time that they were not going to be importing goods, that they were going to be producing them. Yeah? And so in places like Aba, parts of Imo State, all the way to Nnewi, Awka, Igbo people just decided that instead of going to import things, they were going to be manufacturing them. So do big industries, all those things. The people were just entered into manufacturing. That was pre-war. And that was what defined the sense of accomplishment. So we knew what people were doing. We could tell how they were making their money. And on the basis of that, we could recognize them as having accomplished something. Now, post-war, because Igbo people started from scratch, the first challenge was mobilization of resources. And so something then had to replace that sense of accomplishment. And we defaulted to money. So it then didn't matter how you acquired the money. And I said from previous response, we are talking about this sense of survival post-war. So because it was all sense of survival, it was all about how do you get money. And so we then used money to replace all the things that you needed to have accomplished before we give you name recognition. I mean, you look at the video we saw people like Alvani Koku, Bono Ejike, and all these people, pre-war people that we could recognize. There were people who had to make significant. I mean, if you look at Louis Ojukwu and people like that, I mean, they were accomplishment. For you to be recognized, the level of contribution to society had to be enormous. But in the post-war, money just replaced everything. And I think that the value of a conversation like this today is that we have to also start calling out our people on this. I'm trying to be careful now. We have to start calling out our people on this using money, just money, for replacing real achievement. Because na Igbo, I say which means money is not everything. There has to be more to you than money. So we have to really call out our people. Very important thing. That we need to go back to who we are. Proud people who will only recognize you when you have paid your dues and achieved success in a way that we can all interrogate and say, yes, this man has done noble contribution to society.
I mean, I think that's a very powerful point, you know, that we have to really take out from this conversation. Money is not everything, you know, and I think that we've seen it live and direct, you know, across the Southeast. I think we've made money. We've made money. But when you drive around, what difference has it made? You know, what difference has the money made? So, in your view, you know, coming into this historic moment in your life, ascending the throne of your ancestors, you know, how would you like to see money translate into achievement? You know, first in Arochukwu and then across the Southeast.
Ana m ekele gị ebe ọ dị ukwuu na ajụjụ ahụ ị jụrụ maka na ihe ahụ na-eri m uche. Ihe o ji na-eri m uche wụ na ego na-enweghị otu esi na-ezi ya ụzọ. Ego ahụ nwere ike inye nsogbu. N'ala Igbo anyị sị na ịkpata ego ma ego ga-ekpubeghị isi, ego ahụ nwere ike ịlanahụ gị n'aka. So na-asị n'ala Igbo onye kpata ego na-eme ọfụma, o nwere mgbe ọ ga-eru nna ya akpọ ya kpọba ya n'ime ụlọ si ya, nwa m nwoke, ego a kpatara okpuokwala isi. A na-akọwa ya akọwa ihe wụ na ego mmadụ ekpuola isi, maka ego na-ekpubeghị isi na-ahụ ụzọ na-achọ ebe ọ na-aga, fuo ọhịa, fuo ụzọ. Dimkpa na-eri na ugo ebidoro iwe n'ala, ya wụrụ na ego ya epiola piom piom piom. Now let me explain this to those who don't understand Igbo. Question is, money. We have made money. From my exalted position as the Eze Aro, what will be my view of how we will transform and translate the money that Igbo people have made, and what impact it should have on the people? And so the answer to that question is that it's something that has given me much thought and concern. Because traditionally in Igbo land, when you make money, we say that your money has to, literally speaking, has to become blind so that it will stay and be put to good use. If your money is still seeing, it will look for where it will go, and then it will go astray. So many Igbo people have made money, but their money is not yet blind. And now, you know, as we become educated and we get exposed, some of the things that we learned traditionally, we didn't know the meaning, but when we get exposed, we began to understand it. So what does it mean in Igbo land when we say your money has become blind? So if you look at different people groups, when money comes into their community, studies show how long that money revolves in their community before it leaves the community. And the people with the, you know, with the most studied research of being able to keep their money within their community is the Jews. And I think somebody says that the money revolves among the Jews about 18 times before it leaves the Jewish community. But the black community in America, for instance, somebody say it revolves just twice. So 18 to 2, it gives you a sense. So people study this thing, looks like new research, but we already had that concept in Igbo land. So when money comes into our community, we have to make the money blind. That the money have to revolve among us, enrich us, enrich our children, and do us sufficient good before we release it. And I'll give you an example. If money comes into our community, we have to have banking system that should be able to keep that money and offer it to ourselves for the purposes of projects, trade, and investment in order to build capacity among ourselves before that money leaves our community. So that's banking structure, wise-like banking structure, and all finance institution related activities. Second is services. So if you wake up in the day and just look at all the things that you have to use from when you wake up in the morning till, how much of that money is supplied, provided by, by Igbo people. And then you look at where you spend big money, the biggest money you spend, which is real estate, vehicle, and all those kind of things. How much of those institutions have we built to scale and to capacity and to the right standard and quality globally that you will subscribe to what it is that they are doing? So what I'm saying is that until consciously, as Igbo people, we are able to make our money blind, that it revolves among us sufficient number of time to enrich our people before we can say that we are putting our money to good use. So right now, it's not a competition about who buys the biggest Rolls Royce and all that. As beautiful as all those things look on social media, they're really infantile. Okay? Because you're buying Rolls Royce that somebody designed and somebody built. Why are you not designing and building your own? Traditional Igbo society and communities had this sense of self-sufficiency. So we don't go to market to joke. Going to market in Igbo land is a demonstration of who and what you have been able to produce.
Yes.
You understand? So you go to the market and that market represents you. Things you produce, things you make, things you develop. So this market in Igbo land that everything is made in China is not Igbo market.
It's a Chinese market.
It's a Chinese market.
So what we are saying, and this is really important, is can we organize ourselves so that we can mobilize Igbo capital to support Igbo entrepreneurs? Can we do that? Because you have some of the hungriest, most entrepreneurial young people in Igbo land who, when you speak with them, you see the kind of wild ideas that they have. But maybe they just need 5 million naira for a seed capital for what they want to do. They go to the established banks today, they turn them around and they don't get anything. We have to find a way to make our money blind. That's the summary of what I'm saying. And we can spend the whole day just talking about it. But I'm saying, like you said, with the kind of money Igbo people have made now, they're one of the biggest diaspora remitters to Nigeria today. But when they remit that money, where does it go to? There's no system that captures that money and turns it into productive use for young Igbo entrepreneurs. And we say we have to change that. And I'm hoping that this kind of elevated conversation we are having will begin to plant that kind of seed in the minds of our people that there is work to be done. And it will take traditional rulers like myself to challenge Igbo people to say, enough of the nonsense. Who has the bigger house and who has the best Rolls Royce and all that? That is good enough. But that doesn't make your money blind. In fact, those things is what makes your money miss ways. So we want to make our money blind. We stay within our society and develop our people.
You said initially that you wanted to be careful, but I think we can all say that you're not being careful anymore. You've gotten very comfortable, and you're punching hard now.
I try.
And the goal of making our money blind, I think that is a powerful headline that we're going to take out of this session. But to stay on it just a little longer. You've spoken about mobilizing Igbo capital for Igbo entrepreneurs. And we're about to open the conversation up now, because I'm sure people's minds are really moving now, because we're getting very personal. We're talking about Rolls Royces and big houses. And some people here have, big houses and Rolls Royces. So I know we want to share our own insights, but how far are you willing to go, as Eze Aro, in pushing this message of Igbo capital from all over the world for Igbo entrepreneurs? How far are you willing to go in pushing that narrative?
I mean, ekele ngoza na ajụjụ ijuru. Na ala Igbo anyị na-asị na ndụ adịghị abụọ. Ya okwu Igbo, ndụ adịghị abụọ. Ụgbọ awụ nkiri nkiri, onye gbacha ọla, ndị ọzọ ebido gbawa. Onwe nke Chineke si gị mezie ya emezi maka echi dị ime, dịka ndị Igbo na-ekwu. The essence of that is that we have one life to live. This is really important. And that one life we have to live is very short, according to our Igbo folklore, which is what I was using to explain that answer. And everyone comes to dance. And sooner or later, the dance will be over. And you have to exit the stage for others to come and continue from where you stop. I've gone through this lens to answer that question because this is our time. And we have to determine when we leave the stage that we have to leave it better than we met it. Because every generation must be an improvement of the prior. And so we have to leave this place with a deep, our children cannot be telling the same stories we are saying.
Yeah.
They cannot. That would be failure on our side. And so we have to be able to leave them a different challenge, which is how to scale the foundations that we have built. So to your question, how far are you willing to go? I mean, for the rest of our lives, that's the only thing to do.
So, thank you very much, Eze Aro. But very, very quick, I want to open the floor for comments, for contributions, for questions. We're we're in the final stages of the conversation, you know, but please feel free to join in the discussion. Feel free to join in the discussion. Yeah. Yeah, sure, come. Just if you just introduce yourself very quick and.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ejike's sister. Thank you so much for the history lesson and insights into knowledge and wealth. My own take on, I'm very proud to be an Igbo girl. My social media, anytime I post anything, I dub myself a Suka's finest because that's what I am. I'm an Igbo princess and Igbo royalty. So I want to thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to dive into Igbo history. Mine is a bit of a question and also a comment. I want to find out, how do we bridge the gap between the pre-generation and the now generation? How do we build trust between the two generations? Because it looks as if trust has been misplaced or has been lost, and people are now fighting to have a voice where they have always had a voice. How do we now make that synergy between the two generations, between the two gaps, and say, now we are able to hand over Igbo history, Igbo wealth, Igbo knowledge down to the next generation?
Biko unu kụtụrụ ya aka na ajụjụ ahụ. Ile anya na nsogbu anyị ugbu a bụ ihe na-ajụ ajụjụ ya. Nke mbụ na nsogbu ahụ wụ okwu ọnụ. Ọ bụrụ na okwu ọnụ ndị oke mmadụ na-ekwu, ndị na-etolite etolite anaghị anụ okwu ahụ, nsogbu nke mbụ dị. Ile anya anyị ọwụ ndị Igbo, ọtụtụ n'ime anyị anaghị akụziri ụmụ anyị okwu ha. O nwere ihe ndị m kwulere ugbu a wee ihe m mụtara dịka nwatakịrị. Ịkọwa ya n'okwu Igbo, ndị na-aghọta Igbo ga-aghọta ya ebe ọ dị ime kara ma m were okwu Bekee kwuo ya. Maka na ụda okwu ahụ ma ewere Igbo kwuo ya gaa na onye Igbo ọbụla nụrụ ya n'obi karịa. So nke mbụ iji mee ka ndị gbagotara agbagotara ya na-abịa ọzọ ka ha nwee ike wụ okwu ọnụ azụ nke mbụ. Nke abụọ bụ na mana ala Igbo, mana ebe ndị Igbo nọ na mba, anyị ga-agba mbọ ịhụ na otu ndị Igbo si ewere ihe si n'ofu agbụrụ nye ọzọ, na anyị chọrọ otu anyị ga-esi mee ya na nke agbụrụ ọhụrụ. Maka na mgbe mbụ oru na mgbe abalị agbacha mbọ, ndị Igbo lọta ụlọ ericha nri abalị, abịa kwuo okwu ihe na-aga n'obodo, ihe na-agba n'obodo, abịa kwuere ụmụ okorobịa na ụmụ agbọghọbịa okwu, dụwa ha ọdụ, ha na-ajụ ajụjụ. Igbo na-akpọ ya ịsa anya, asawa ha anya. N'okwu arụ a na-asị ya agbajie ha olu. Maka na ụwa na-eme ngagharị ntụgharị kama na ọ akọ na uche ka Igbo ji biri. Akọ na uche ahụ a na-akụzi akụzi, anaghị esi n'elu ada. Nkụzi ahụ kene mgbe ọ na-eme, ọ rụrụ ụmụ anyị niile a na-efegharị ebe niile ha na-efegharị. Kedu onye na-agbaji ha olu? Kedu onye na-ezi ha ụzọ? Anyị ga-achọ ụzọ iji hụ na agbụrụ ọhụrụ a na ịgbaji olu ahụ aka na-agbaji ya, n'izi ụzọ ahụ aka na-ezi ya, na ịsa anya ahụ aka na-asa ya, nọ ihe eji mara Igbo. Nke ikpete maazụ wụ na o nwere okwu Igbo na-agwa ụmụ ha a na-akpọ ya egbo ya ọnụ mmiri n'aka. Egbo ya ọnụ mmiri ahụ n'aka na-etinye mmadụ ọkụ n'obi maka ị ga-echeta mgbe o mere, ga-eburu ya n'obi na-eme ihe na-eme na-aga n'ihu. Let me try to explain. The question is, how do you bridge the gap between the older generation and the younger generation of Igbo people on these issues that we are addressing? And my answer to that is, number one is the issue of language. Because the language you use to describe an issue will determine the weight of that issue to the person you're speaking to. So if I use English to say something to my son, and then I use Igbo to say exactly the same thing to him, my using Igbo to communicate it to him carries a certain weight to his comprehension, his understanding, and the value he places on what is it that I'm communicating. And I'm saying to Igbo people, where you are in the world, it is a tragedy that you are not teaching your children your language. Because many of the things you want to communicate to them and the expectation you have of them is lost because you are not teaching to the depth that you need to teach, simply because your power of language is limited in the first place. Second is the traditional Igbo setting requires that by the time the business of the day is done, the Igbo man sits down with his family and begins the education that is not taught in school. And that education is what has preserved Igbo people. Because it's folklore, it's stories, it's our idioms, it's a lot of things that you speak by way of education to your children. And so what I'm saying is that even with modernity that has come upon us, we shouldn't lose the essence, which is that we need to find a way to modernize that culture and custom, where we dedicate time, because this is now an investment, all right? Where we dedicate time to educate our children with the things that has preserved us as a people. And this is really important. And so we have to find a way to make it work in modern day life. And then the last thing I said is that there are rituals that we perform as Igbo people that lights up a fire in our children. And one of them is when your father, literally speaking, is say, spits into your hand, like gives you a secret. Okay? And that secret is between you and your dad. Because he calls you into his inner room and tells you what he does, what he cannot tell anybody. And puts it in your hand. Because every time you open your hand, you remember that encounter where your father put some things, in your hand. And those things are the things that will guide you, in life. So I'm saying that if there is something we will need to take away, is that there is a traditional education. There is a traditional education that seems to have been lost and that we now take for granted and that we are not practicing. And I'm saying that as Igbo people, we need to go back to it. And whatever investment we need to make to modernize those teachings, we have to do it so that, I mean, the strange thing is that people who have become adult Igbos today didn't even get the teaching.
Very true.
I'm telling you. I mean, we tried to break kola. You'll be amazed how many grown Igbo men do not know the tradition of kola. And they may not be able to tell the difference between Oji Igbo and Agworo. So all I'm saying is that the things that make us uniquely, proudly Igbo people, we have to document it quickly while the elders who know these things are still alive, because they are going.
Yes, very true.
We have to quickly document it so that it becomes a way of educating ourselves and educating our children. And the last thing I wanted to say, this is important, and I'm saying this because I'm a Christian man. I'm a pastor, some people know. There are things we do traditionally that some of us have confused with idol worship, mysticism, and Christianity. Whereas there is really no conflict between our tradition and Christianity. So the things that we hold dear traditionally, there's nothing demonic about them.
Yes.
Okay? And there's nothing demonic about it. So a man calling his son and spitting into his hands and telling him something is not demonic. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There's nothing demonic about that. It's that he wants the son to know that this thing I'm telling you is not like, go and bring food for me. This thing I'm telling you is what will preserve your life. So there is a special ritual to me telling you this thing. I don't just call you and just say things. Something I thought about and reflected on it is what has kept me, is all the things I have learned, and I call you, I ask you to kneel down, and I spit into your hand and I speak over your life. It's a prayer. God honors it. And I'm saying, let's not confuse what has preserved us with, Christianity and all of that. And when you sit back and look at it, you discover there is no conflict. But when we see fetish practice or cultic practice, let's separate that from Igbo tradition and Igbo culture. I hope I've made some point here.
So I think this last point is very loaded. It's very loaded because in terms of differentiating with generations, a lot of people have grown up with the mindset that everything to do with the village or where we're from is spirits and demons and things like that, and it stays with you over the years. And there's so much fear, fake fear created, and it separates you from your identity, the older that you get. So I think that this is a very, very key point. Thank you very much for making that point. Sir.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by demonstrating how we treat our king, because I will still fight you. This is how we treat our king. Now I can talk. First and foremost, I was directed by our elders when I heard he was coming here to come immediately and find out where he is. So when I got to this place, I found out that there was no aroma here. So I called my younger brother, and my senior brother arrived. You can see that. Are you an aroma?
Please, I'm an aroma.
Come on, sit here.
Please clap for them.
In Arochukwu Kingdom, we are known for our respect for elders, right? Have you greeted them? So that people can see. So I'll just join my story in a little while. Mention a few things. And you people can see the example of wisdom in our king. The way he has been able to present his stories and the connectivity to our lives. But I just want to join a few things that he mentioned. When I got the concept that we're trying to integrate the real understanding of Igbo-ness, I think Martin Luther King called it my somebodyness amongst them. It excited me a lot because that's a very fundamental thing to do. Now, one of the things, according to what our king said, about how you know the Igbo man, a combination of everything that you have said, which I also want to resonate with you people today, is that the Igbo man's success is not on the person, it's on his community. That is why in Igbo land they say that one person that is rich in a place is a poor man. For you to be rich in Igbo land, you need to point at the people that became rich through your own effort. Right? That's one of our identities. The second identity of an Igbo man, you see how he proudly pointed to his wife. You look at the wife of an Igbo man, you can see money. If your wife is not reflecting your money, you're not an Igbo man.
No, but do we agree with that?
Yes, of course.
The third thing about the Igbo man is that the Igbo man strives for excellence. If he's a mechanic, he's the best mechanic in his area. If he's a carpenter, he is the best. If the Igbo man is going to school, he is the best. That is why in Arochukwu Kingdom, a man stayed in our village and wrote and became a doctorate degree holder in England, Abanikoku, that you have today in your 10 naira. He was in Arochukwu village through correspondence and established one of the finest secondary schools in our village. There are so many people from around West Africa schooled in that place. Those are the things that made the difference with the Igbo man. He's told the story about the post-war and the new era that we're in now. But the beauty today, though, is that we have so many things that work for us that were not there before. I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but I just want to connect a few things. When I went to do graduate school, somewhere, I won't mention it, so people don't start thinking anything of us now. When I went to do graduate school, a study was done, and one of the most effective weapons that was used against the Igbo man was just a simple analogy that was made. So let me take you guys to picture a place. Let's say that we are a bunch of thieves tonight, and we just want to go and rob ShopRite. But we broke into ShopRite in the night. The only thing we did was that we went to start changing the prices of the items. So you saw television, you took the pricing of a tissue paper and placed it on the television. Then you took the price of the television and put it on the tissue paper, right? Nobody knew. So the next morning they opened the shop, nothing was lost. But people now showed up and saw a fridge. Fridge is 10 naira. Really? They said they bought it. But the basic things like water became 100,000 naira. Nobody could drink water, right? Now, what happened was that they upturned the values of the Igbo society. The values of industry, honesty, and all that became nothing. And then they started valuing nonsense. When they value nonsense, they price it so much that when you ask a little boy now, what do you want to do? He say he wants to do Yahoo. That's the problem. But our real value was that you were trained to become the best God made it possible for you to be. Another thing that I gleaned from him tonight, which is fundamental, and I've been thinking about it, can you really doubt the fact that the Igbos are blessed? That's the problem. We are really blessed. Anywhere you go, whether you go to Cameroon, or you go to Ghana, you go to South Africa, or you go anywhere, there is just something following the Igbo man. And I don't think we can take credit. We can only return that credit to God, right? Finally, he mentioned about the Jews. That was also part of that story. Now, the reason why the Jews are successful is because they trade among themselves, which is where I will anchor my review. You people are young people, and the beauty is that I'm not very savvy with IT, but you people are very savvy with your IT. You can use it to interconnect with yourselves. In Igbo land in the past, when you learn a trade, you trade 7 more people in your trade, right? In Igbo land in the past, in Idumota, if you didn't have something in your shop, you run to another shop to go and bring it and sell. How are we integrating to do business with ourselves? It is by doing business together that you build a trust, you build community, and you scale it up. What is called around the world is that you belong to a business group, a business club, business. You think about the business community, which is why sometimes they have a facade that these people are cult members and all that. It's not cults. It's just people that trust each other enough to do business. And because they trust each other enough to do business, they make the barrier of entry very high so that you don't come there and embarrass everybody. So for you to be admitted to cross the boundaries of trust, competence, and all that, right?
To share the experience.
So,
is it a
gentlemen,
topic or is it touching?
what you have done tonight is great. But next time you bring my king without telling us,
His deal is life.
you will see about that woman that day. Thank you so much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much again for gracing us with your presence. So I guess my question or my comment is, we've been talking about the Igbo man all night, and we've not heard anything about the Igbo woman, right? Traditionally, in the past, like our history, what was it like for the Igbo woman historically, and what is it not like now? And also moving forward, what can we do to encourage more women to be part of leadership in the Igbo community?
All right. I think I'll just answer this one in English to save our time. So, without doubt, the traditional Igbo society is patriarchal. Yeah? It's a man's world, traditionally. However, the Igbo people historically places such a high premium on their women and their daughters. So if you go to traditional Igbo society, we have the people we call the Umuadas. And those Umuadas is a selection of the firstborn girls in the community. In some communities, traditionally, it's the Umuadas that rule. Yes. The reason why the Umuadas rule is just like he's saying, like a cult society. The Umuada is like a cult. They corner the strongest men to themselves. No, I'm telling you. And so they end up wielding the strongest influence in the community. Even today in communities where the Umuada are strong, try and go and do a burial in such community without settling the Umuada, then they will tell you that that burial is not going to happen. It's just a reflection of what they used to be. So that was the case traditionally. Now, let me tell you a story, and this is really some things that we're going to explore when we start talking about history. And please, those who haven't had this before, pay attention. In Arochukwu Kingdom, historically, we have had an Eze Aro who was a woman. Before the Queen of England, Arochukwu had an Eze Aro who was a woman. This is before the colonialists came. And why is that the case? It's the case that in traditional Igbo society, the effort to preserve the blue blood of your strongest ancestry, when you come to a generation where there is no son, we will not let that daughter marry and go out, because she's now the one carrying the blue blood. So we will keep her. And for that sacrifice of not going outside, when her father dies, we put her on the throne. And then all the strong men will surround her. It's not her, it's the blood that she is carrying that the people are protecting. Now, the reason why I told that story is this whole idea that traditional Igbo society did not recognize woman. What do you have to say about that history? Because you have to find a way to explain to me that we don't value our women if we could take one of our daughters and put her as the one that is custodian of our custom, culture, and everything. So what our daughters have to understand is that even though it is a patriarchal society, we are very, very protective of our women and our daughters. And we ensure that their rights are not lost. In Igbo land, when a man shares his property, he has something for his daughters, traditionally. So this campaign that has been going on in Igbo land, where people are sharing property and they say it cannot be shared to the daughters, is not true. Because in some parts of Igbo land today, when the woman dies, based on the understanding between the in-laws, some still allow you to bring that daughter home to bury. And the reason you do that is because of the covenant that is between the two families. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. I'm just showing traditionally things that are in Igbo land that flies in the face of what we are experiencing today. That this disinheritance, this denigration, there's nothing Igbo in it. So when a man grows old, it's his daughters that take care of him. He doesn't want the son to leave fighting wars and to come and be there. No, it's his daughters that take care of him. So why will he not then preserve an inheritance for those daughters that take care of him? So all I'm saying is that, and this is really important, is that the traditional Igbo society is very protective of our daughters, our wives, and our women folk. Highly protective of them. And we organize our society so that our women are able to lead. That's why we have the Moneda. That's why we have our women organizations. And they have survived up till today. And the way you need to think about it, and I think it's something we need to explore. How did we have Igbo women organize to have the Aba Women Riot?
True. Very powerful.
Just think about the mentality of those women to be able to organize such a resistance. That was before the war. So much of the will I say commentary, negative commentary about Igbo women and all of that is a post-war event. Before the war, our women were some of the strongest in the Nigerian state. As far as women recognition, women empowerment is concerned. I hope I did some justice to that question.
Eze Aro, That's the definition. If you want to greet people in Igbo, you have to do that 3 times. Right? I'm a member of Arochukwu Kingdom. My name is Samuel Amiao. Facing invited me to this event. I'm actually the treasurer of Arochukwu Kingdom. And Arochukwu Kingdom is the think tank of the Igbo nation and also the think tank of Moneda. In recent times, this has been happening on Moneda, so let me not forget that. Now, one of the things I want to talk to is this terminology about Igbo unity and all that. I think it's an idea that was sold to the Igbos. Igbos are united everywhere. Yes. So let's not project that disunity with our own mouth or with our own verbal utterances and all that. So if people say Igbos are not united, let them point to one particular thing that disunites us as Igbos. Right? When your chief, sir? Chief? Okay.
No, Mazi.
Mazi. When Mazi was, talking about Kola, talked about Noma. Because there's so many things we did as Arochukwu Kingdom to make sure that the Anyomas were pulled to the Igbo society. Even we're trying to bring people from Kogi and all those Kotakot and all to pull them in. Igbos are Igbos, irrespective of the state or boundary and anything. So let's not always project that terminology that Igbos are not united. Because when they say that, if ask them, okay, tell me, how are we not united? I mean, you go to an Igbo man's house, is he going to ask you where you're from? He's just going to ask you, okay, just to know where you're from. Go and check. If you go abroad, everybody says you, the first thing is, you are an Igbo man first. Before you are an Aro man, or before you are from Abia, or before you are from Imo. Alright? So that is just my little contribution. Thank you. And there's one other thing, sorry guys. The Ezes in the East, they have problem of financing. I mean, that's funding, right? Now, it's the simple fact that, let's use Kano for example. Kano has 45 local governments in Kano State. Each local government contributes 5% of the allocation to the emir. Do you understand? So if that emir is getting 5%, money is power in this thing, right? But if you come to Lagos State, let me use Lagos for example too. What Tinubu did was that, yes, there are kings all over the places, but if you're selling any property, there's an amount that goes to that king to sustain him. So whichever, whether you'll be selling or buying and all that. So they have created a system of funding their royal fathers. Now come to the east. Every locality, every autonomous community has a king. Now, if in one local government you have about 500 kings, they will share 5% of that local government allocation. And each king might end up getting 200,000 a month, even 100,000. So what do? They resort to conferring chieftaincy titles to people who will pay them money. I just want you people to understand what we're facing. So if we can have a system where we can, converge all the Ezes, let's have one Eze per state, right? Maybe chiefs, not Ezes, as we call them. So I think that should be what we should push for. I rest my case. Thank you very much.
That's a good one.
Well, thank you very much. You're very welcome, Arochukwu Kingdom. And just to clarify, the intention was not to indicate that we are not united. But from our view, unity is actually a factor of works, not idea, not concept. So while I do agree that, you know, in our minds, in our hearts, we are very united, in our actions, it's a different case, you know. And the proof of the unity in the East would be in the investments, you know, in the industry. All right, you know, as Eze Aro mentioned, in the blindness of our money. That is the proof of unity that I think is still lacking, which I think we need to push in the direction of, you know, once our money is truly blind, there won't be any question as to our unity.
Yes, I want us to, you know, separate business. You know, there's, you know, in Igbo land we have social, political, and psycho, you know, analysis. So we must separate all of them, right? If we're talking about business, let's focus on business. We're talking about politics, we focus on politics. We're talking about social, whatever, you know. So by the time that message gets out, nobody will be there to think you're talking about business and all that. They are talking about you and I. Imo is not united with Abi, Abi is not united with Ebony and all that, right? So please, I just want us to, you know, to have some clarity when we're trying to present some issues. Thank you very much. This is a brief question.
Do you have any
yeah, let me say something. And this is going to be important because you're talking about. We addressed this when we started speaking. That what actually unites us is our self-identity. And if there is where we need to work on, we need to work on that self-identity. Because when that identity is fractured, it becomes very difficult. So if you look at the challenge you presented with Igbo people who by way of state creation end up in Kogi State or end up... I mean, it's good for us to say, oh, when you speak to some of the people, they will tell you that they are not Igbo. But they are answering Igbo name. And it becomes a paradox. Because somebody is telling you he's not Igbo. And his name is so Igbo that that you know that you wonder. So, but I think it was the point you made, Emeka, about that when people want to get to the heart of who Igbo people are, one of the ways to do it is attacking the identity. Because once that identity is lost, then the people are in confusion. And we know what it was. After the war, it was fashionable not to be Igbo, so you can avoid the victimization of post-war Nigeria. So, and as I said, it was, and let's not make any something out of it, it was necessary for survival that people do that. So don't begrudge anybody, because I mean, when it's a matter of life and death, you have to do what you have to do to survive. So the Igbo people who had to change their name, put Aro to their name, or do whatever, it was a matter of survival. But what we are saying is that that survival mentality has served us up to now. We are not in that situation anymore. And because we are not in that situation anymore, we don't need that strategy. That's not what is required now. What is required now going forward is that Igbo people should recapture their lost identity, be confident in who they are, because that is going to be key for the journey ahead. So when we speak to our brothers around Nigeria who had to do what they had to do to survive, what we should be saying is that now we have all survived. And there is yet huge challenge ahead of us. And we now need to sit down and collectively undertake this task of rebuilding Igbo land. And if we're going to do that, we have to do that jointly, we have to do that collaboratively, we have to work on it together for us to stand a chance of success. I'm a traditional ruler. And I believe that 50 years from now, we will not be dealing with the kind of problem you're talking about, traditional rulers who need 5% subvention and all. That's not Igbo for you. We built our traditional institutions on the strength of the character of the stool. I told you the story, we put our daughter there and we preserved her on that throne, not for subvention. The authority of the throne is not derived from any subvention from anywhere. The authority of the throne is derived from the people. And if the people cannot be sensitized enough to believe in the throne, then we have a problem, have a more fundamental problem. So whenever we address this issue, I always say to people, don't look from a people something that is not in their character. Traditionally. So whatever is in the character of the people is what you should work with. The character of the Igbo man is industry. The character of the Igbo man is excellence. The character of the Igbo man is pursuit of success and happiness. Those are the things that are in our character. And those are the things that we should promote. There are things that are not so good that are in our character. Leave those ones for another day. Okay? So I hope that puts some... All right.
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Engineer Obina Charles Nana. Your Eminence, Your Majesty, first and foremost, let me thank you for the words of wisdom and enlightening all of us today. I think it would be hard pressed to say it's not every evening you get to sit with a king and be enlightened to the extent we've been enlightened. In listening to what's been said throughout the evening, and being one of the most prominent kings in Nigeria, and definitely the most prominent king in the Southeast, my question is this. As we strive to ensure the prosperity and well-being of our people, instead of talking as we've been talking about us, this question is to you. What legacy do you wish to leave behind? And how can we, not just Aros, but Igbos, as your loyal subjects, contribute to building the future that reflects your vision? Thank you.
So in my career, professional career, I've been privileged to live and work around the world. Yeah. So I worked for Shell for 23 years. And post Shell, some of you know, I ran one of the most successful indigenous oil companies in Nigeria. What I find amazing in my work around the world is that the pace, and I was going to speed, of some of the places that I work, the speed of their development came from the power of their leaders to envision them, support them, encourage them, and to help them. And, one of my critical distinctions just being around the world and walking around the world is that what I hear many Nigerians say, oh, the problem of Nigeria, now Igbo people, and it's a constituent of Nigeria, is corruption. I try to find where I have lived and worked before in the world where there was no corruption. At least not in the US, not in the UK, not in continental Europe. I lived in all these places and I saw corruption walking on the street. But what is very powerful in most of these societies is that in spite of corruption in some of these societies, there has always been strong leadership and very patriotic followership. So when you have followership that is very patriotic and leadership that is very strong, in spite of the negatives in the society, the people rise. So to your question, what legacy do I want to leave? For me as a person, for sitting on this stool, I want to leave a legacy of very strong leadership. I've told the story to my people. I said, this is Arochukwu Renaissance. And it is Arochukwu Renaissance because if you look at our history and look at what the Aros had done for the Igbo people in those days and the conversation we're having now, we have to find a way to capture in our imagination of modern day living what we can do for our people. So the Aros provided for our people a sense of a central religion. And people could come to Arochukwu and to consult the gods. And so they were not lost. They provided a sense of central religion. They provided a sense of trade routes and commerce. So throughout Igbo land, you could trade in the old, before the colonialists came, you could trade in Igbo land because those trade routes were provided by the Arab. And they built an enormous wealth of collaboration with all kinds of communities to provide military protection. So if any flank of Igbo land was attacked by anybody and the message gets to Arochukwu, we mobilize the military might of the Igbo nation to go and wage the war. And so in reality, and this is history that we are exploring, when the invaders from the north were coming to Igbo land, when they got to present-day Kogi State, where there were Igbo communities and the north, the Aros were the ones that mobilized the Igbo warriors from all across Igbo land that went and fought that war and stopped them there. So we had a system of military organization that mobilized all Igbo people. The Aros didn't fight the war alone. Those who know the history knew that it was an army of collaboration. So, and then we had an education system, including a writing system. And in Sibiri. When you come to our oracles, our shrines, you will see how we used to write to ourselves. So you take a piece of wood, you write what you want to write, you wrap it up, you send it, your people take it and they read it. So it was an education system, it was a religious system, it was a commercial system, it was a military system that we had provided for ourselves that guided us as a people. So when I talk about the Renaissance, which is a rebirth, is that we have to now say, okay, that was good enough for our great-great-grandparents. What does it mean for us today? Cosmopolitan Igbo person all over the world, what does it mean? How do we leave a legacy? I think that the legacy we will leave is from forums like this and the work and the life work that I will do from now on to restore to the Igbo people that sense of who we are. Because really, that's all you give to a people. It's identity. You know, when an Igbo man gets a son and you send him and say, Chetakwande morogi. Chetakwa hannagi. Emebila hamnozo. What that means is, remember the son of who you are. Remember the name you bear. Don't spoil that name outside. So essentially, that's all you have to give, the sense of identity. So what I'm saying is that I hope that my legacy will not be in some structure or whatever, but will be the intangible rebirth of the greatness of the Igbo people through stories that we are telling now that hadn't been told for many years, simply because we didn't take responsibility for telling our story, and so people modeled what the story is. And I saw the video clip that we watched, and I think most of that was taken from the British narration of what happened during the Arab-British War. The British destroyed the Arochukwu. That's not what happened. So what happened was that prior to 1901 to 1902, there was a war of attrition. And that war of attrition was that the British came and said that trade with the Aros was no longer enough. They now wanted to institute their government. My people said, we have been trading and there's no problem. Why do you now want to come and put your government over me? And so my people said, we don't agree. If you want to trade, we trade. But if you want to come and administer over me, that's not going to happen. And so that war, the British Aro War, yes, indeed, the British came and bombed the Egbuagu Oracle. Yes, they captured the Eze Aro that was there, but they couldn't enter Arochukwu. That was what happened. They couldn't enter. And they couldn't enter for more than 10 years because the Aros went into guerrilla warfare. Together with the Abam warriors and the Ohafa warriors, we entered the bush. And they didn't know who was fighting them. If you read the records of the British soldiers, when they sent 50 soldiers, just give them some time, all 50 will disappear. So it was a war of attrition. So they can claim that they had a victory. So what eventually resolved the matter was when they couldn't get a handle and they couldn't lord it over the Arab people because we simply didn't agree, they had to send the female resident officer. Her name is Resident May. I'm telling you this story. So women think about it. When the men fail, they send women. So Resident May came and changed her approach to say that there's no more war, that it has to be peace and diplomacy. And so they then managed to go into negotiation with the Arabs. And what solved that war of attrition was that we said, we know you had conquered everybody else, but that you never conquered the Arochukwu people. That's the first thing we extracted from them. You never conquered us, otherwise the war continues forever. So they never conquered the Arochukwu people. And second is that you are never going to impose your warrant chiefs, your district officer, you're never going to impose that on Arochukwu people. We have an Eze Aro, we will put our Eze Aro, who runs the kingdom. So Resident May signed the truce with the Aros to end the Arab-British War. And as part of that truce, the agreement was that the Aros should reinstall their Eze. And that was how my grandfather was reinstalled as the Eze of Arochukwu Kingdom at age 14. So it's very important who tells the story. Yeah, for as far as we are concerned, and as far as we know, the facts of the matter is the fact of the matter is that the Aros have never been conquered in our history. Because we are protecting the entire Igbo land, we were never conquered. It was a truce, it was an agreement that was reached. Our king was restored. By God's grace, the man ruled for 73 years, as you heard. So we were never conquered. Even during the Nigerian Biafra War, Aro never fell to death for Nigeria. He didn't. All right? Yeah. The day the war was going to enter Arochukwu, that's the day the war ended. So, as far as we are concerned, telling the story by ourselves, as an Igbo kingdom that has never been conquered. Never. And that's the Arochukwu Kingdom. And every Igbo person can be proud of it. That's our history. So essentially what I'm saying to that point, that it's important that we tell our story by ourselves. That's our history, that's our pride, that's our future. I hope that answers something.
Yeah. So on that note about telling our stories, I think we'll just move to closing the evening. Just to say, we're not chasing everybody away. We'll just move into a session of more drinks and more chatting.
I think he wants to.
Yeah, yes, I know. But then we have Chini from Voice of the East, who are the people supposed to tell this story, and we'll try to just wrap up with her question.
Yes, so it's not a question, it's a comment. And to also say thank you for being here. It was very insightful, what you said so far. And I think, the younger generation, I feel that it's easy for us to say that we've learned a lot from this conversation today, and conversations that need to be had quite often. I wanted to obviously touch on the storytelling part, because that's what we do with Voice of the East Media. We tell the stories of Igbo men and women, and we amplify our voices. In terms of our culture, our history, and everything that we've been able to accomplish, I find that there's a lot of people who do not know what Igbos have accomplished. They do not know the opportunities that are in the Southeast. And that is the reason why we keep promoting the need for us to advance the Southeast, for us to come together and invest in the Southeast. And not just Igbo people, but even other tribes and other people abroad as well, right? To come back and see the opportunities that are in the Southeast, because they're there. So it's about us telling these stories and allowing people to see the beauty of the Southeast. Every time we post, places like Onitsha, or just different places in the East, people are amazed. They're actually amazed. Oh, this is Nigeria, right? And so it's important that we continue to tell these stories, and I hope that everyone here will all join us in telling our stories and continue to have these sorts of conversations. Another thing I wanted to touch on as well was the funding issue. And I had that conversation with my staff yesterday before we had our meeting today with Fidelity Bank. And one of the things I said is, at every meeting I've been to since I became the CEO of this company, everyone has touched on starting a fund and having that idea to start a fund. My dad has started something like that as well. So I know that it's something that everyone wants to start. We also want to start it. But we keep talking about it, but nothing has happened, right? So my dad started something called the Southeast Nigerian Economic Development Fund, which pretty much every high-profile Igbo man is involved in, plus the government as well, except Ebonyi State. And even at that, nothing has happened. And I keep asking him, with all of that backing, with the government backing you, right, with this fund, why is it that it hasn't gone forward, right? And so I keep saying to him, I think the old guard, they need to step aside and allow the young people to come in front because we know what to do, basically. And so with this East Side Ventures, that's what we're doing and what we're going to do. And we hope that more young people, and then the old guard as well, will support us in what we're trying to do. There's a lot of people, especially the Igbos in the diaspora, that have said, listen, open this fund. We are ready to put money in there. We have a lot of emails from people saying that to us. And so it's all about the structuring. It's all about us coming together and thinking about how we can move forward with this one. Because I'm tired of the talking. You know, we can't keep talking about the fund and nothing is happening. So I'm hoping that after this conversation that we've had today, we can all come together and maybe have some sort of round table, which we are planning to have hopefully by the end of this year. And I hope to invite everyone here to attend as well. And to talk about the need for us to come back home and invest. People are so surprised that I live in Enugu. Why is it surprising that I live in Enugu? Some people say you're brave, that you live in Enugu. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful. I've been able to achieve so much from living in the East and just the peace and quiet and serenity of living in the East. So there's a lot of beauty. There's a lot that can be achieved. And we need to promote the opportunities that are there for us, even as young people, to come back home and invest. And so I'm happy that we're having these conversations today. I'm happy that more young people are seeing the need to come back home. And I hope that really in the nearest future, that things will change. And indeed, the Southeast will be great again.
I want to say something to you. Voice of the East. I want to invite you to Arochukwu during my coronation celebration. So please, this is a formal invitation. Please come.
We'll be happy to.
Yeah, but when you come, we're going to do something.
Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to pray for your fund. We're going to pray for your funds from my throne in Arochukwu. And please don't, as I said, please are the pastor. Let's not be scared or whatever. No, but we're going to do an experiment. And that experiment is that we're going to pray for your fund from my throne as Eze Aro. And we're going to call in that prayer for God's help, just to demonstrate that as Igbo people, we have a position of spiritual authority that we can call to when things we have been talking about that it just looks as if it's not happening, that we can call to and things will happen. Now, the reason I say that is the comments I made earlier on, that we shouldn't be like a people without guidance. That in Igbo land, when things are difficult traditionally, we know what to do. But because we are, because of Christianity and all, we become so guarded and all of that. And what I'm saying is that if we pray over this matter, we're not going to be working oracles or whatever, so let's be clear. If we pray over this matter from that exalted throne and nothing happens, then of course maybe the experiment shows that nothing happens when we pray from the throne. But I know from when my grandfather was on that throne, I've seen many people come. Conan issues and all of that. And they come, my grandfather would sit on his throne and pray a simple prayer. And they always all come back with you know, I don't want to call it testimony in the church here. But they come back with that issue being resolved. And I'm just taking this as an opportunity to say that's where we need to go back to. As I said, I'm not a religious man, I'm a spiritual man. That what you're saying is a challenge for us because when people are talking about it, nothing is happening. We will simply take that opportunity to perform that simple prayer and then let's see what God will do. Is that a deal?
Yes.
So, I mean, if you permit me to just formally close the event, and then we'll still move into more talk. We're not going to stop talking. I think we still have more drinks, more food. But I just wanted to formally close so that some people could leave or something. But we'll have a small ceremony we want to perform before the night is over. So, like I said at the beginning, at 1952 Africa, we're a non-for-profit organization that are investing our own money, our own time in recognizing identity. And we believe that identity is defined by three things: our art, our culture, our history. So having you here today means a lot to us, and so we wanted to honor you, honor your presence here with a small token of our appreciation. And this token is it has significance. We have a residency that we hold every year, where we bring young, talented artists, give them accommodation, give them a space where they can create. We also spend time mentoring and talking to them about these things a few things that we discussed today about identity. What should drive our expression? Not drawing houses and sea and water and things like that, but expressing things from our identity that really makes us special and makes our art unique. So we have one of our artists here that I want to introduce, Arochukwu Oji. So Arochukwu is extremely talented, and I say this not to make it sound as if there's any favor and Arochukwu over our other artists that we work with, but when I say it again, Arochukwu is extremely talented, not just in his expression, but in the depth of his understanding of his craft and the ability to communicate it. So we asked, if he wanted to present something to the king, and he jumped at the opportunity, and so here we are. Do you want to open this one? You guys should have opened this one.
Let me just this kind of lesson.
Yeah. That should be worth $50 million in 10 years.
So going to tell us about this one and tell us why you chose this one to give on behalf of
My name is Ejike, and I would like to present this particular piece to our global member, Eze. This piece titled Humans Were Here is strictly about legacy. And when I was creating this piece, it's all about our existence, the aftermath of our existence in a particular community or environment. So we've been here and we left. Our name is there, right? Yes. But what is the aftermath of our existence? It's about legacy. So if you look at the painting, if it's beautiful to you, so that means you're leaving a good legacy from where you're coming out from. So if it's not to you, that means you need to rethink your existence in a particular community or environment. So, title again is Humans Were Here. So we already existed here, but what's the aftermath of it after our existence here? So your wife should come. Thank you. Please, let's go.
What? Yeah, I'm going to just take them out. Yeah. What do you need? Paper. I am. I think I'm going to end it now. I thought Ejike was going to give a. Do you have any pen? No, I do not. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, just very quick before we just have a closing prayer. We just have a closing prayer.
It's already disconnected. It's fine. It's connected.
So can we just come in and have a quick closing prayer?
And